Hello my fellow chatterers and book lovers, and anyone else who's popped in because you're curious about what this is or you've got a bit lost. Welcome everyone. I'm Chatty, this is my channel Chatty the Mad Chatter, and I'm going to be chatting away madly about Anyone for Seconds, which is where I try authors a second time round, one that I did not enjoy their book and one that I did enjoy their book, and I talk about my experience with them. So this is my final thoughts for the what I am calling the More Than Fae pairing, which is Sarah J Maas's House of Earth and Blood and Zen Cho's The Order of the Pure Moon Reflected in Water. And before I go any further, I feel I need to clarify. I am wearing clothes. I just have my shoulders are out because it's hot. And if I lean the camera any further forward so you can see me, it just falls over all the time. So if suddenly it looks like I am dressed, it looks like I'm not, but I'm not. It's not a naked video, even if I am doing a Sarah J Maas book. So I haven't done my gimmick on my channel. I do one rolling shot. There is no editing because my laptop is decrepit and can't cope with it. So cheers everyone. Clink, clink, clink. Let the chaos commence. Okay, I have a load of notes. I got a lot of things to say. Water is on hand. We are good to go. So, like I said, it's my final thoughts for the More Than Fae pair. So, with Sarah J Maas, I did not enjoy A Court of Mist and Fury. A Court of Thorns and Roses was okay. But I thought, let's give it another go. I've got a project I'm doing where I need to read House of Earth and Blood anyway. So let's give it another go because this is not just medieval fae world. There are other supernatural characters in this world. It's more of an urban feel. Let's try and see if I can enjoy a Sarah J Maas book. With my initial thoughts, if you have not seen those and you're interested to hear my initial thoughts, I will leave the link here and you can go and check those out and then come back to this video. But yeah, my initial thoughts were, I don't think she's going to be the author for me. But let's see if it did get any better the more I read the book. I did a very minimal amount of physical reading. I mainly listened to the audio, and I will come on to all of that jazz later. So we then have Zen Cho. This is The Order of the Pure Moon Reflected in Water, and it is a novella. And I previously read and absolutely loved the Sorceress Royale duology, which is A Sorcerer to the Crown and The True Queen. So I very much enjoyed her writing. It was kind of like a Austen Georgette Heyer style to it. It was fun. There's so much wit. There's so much humour, plus fae. Now this book, there is no fae. It is not set in Regency London, and it is about bandits and sort of like nuns and monks and that kind of spiritual side of things. Plus I wondered if there was going to be like a heist situation and outlaws. So it was going to be a very, very different vibe to her other one. And I wanted to see if I still loved her writing. So those are the two books. Oh, and in my initial thoughts for Zen Cho's Order of the Pure Moon, I adored her writing. It still gave me everything I wanted. So let's see if I still enjoyed the plot and the way the book ended. Okay, I read both of these in May. I am recording this video in July because it's taken me a long time to get to it. So let's see how I go. I still very much have the emotions of how I was reading them, but I don't know if all of the detail and thoughts are going to come across. We will see what happens. And I'm going to have some water because my voice is already going, which is a great start. Okay, I'm going to start off with the author that I loved and tell you my non-spoiler thoughts for The Order of the Pure Moon. Then I'm going to do non-spoiler for House of Earth and Blood, and then I will do spoilers for both. Okay, and everything will be timestamped so you can find out the bits you want and skip over the bits you don't. And in the description box, both of the books will be linked so you can get a synopsis and more information about them should you want to read them yourself. Right, I think that is all intro done, and we are going to go straight in for my non-spoiler thoughts, final thoughts on Order of the Pure Moon. So, I really loved the protagonists in this book. I loved the sort of their banter and chemistry between them. So we have Gut Im, who is a nun. Here we can see it pictured here. And then you have Tet Sang, a bandit, and also Fyung Shun, a bandit as well. And Gut Im has joined this sort of outlaw bandits, and the story goes from there for various reasons. So I really enjoyed the writing of Zencho. It was exactly what I wanted from her, even though we didn't have sort of like the Regency language. I wasn't sure if we would then lose the witticism as well, but we absolutely did not. The humour, her really subtle humour, her subtle kind of like playing of characters just carried through the whole book. There was a really fun plot with it. There were certain links that were made. It was a very well-rounded novella story, and coming to the end of it, I can't believe it was a novella. It felt really fleshed out in terms of the characters, in terms of the world. I would absolutely read any more that she puts out within this world. But equally, if she doesn't, I'm completely fine with that, because I thought this story was just lovely and I had an amazing time reading it. It was such a great ride. It's definitely going to be one that I will pick up and reread again. Is that okay? No, that is still not spoilers. Okay, cool. So what I love about Zencho's characters is Gut gave me everything I love in her kind of female protagonist. So if you've seen my videos where I talk about Zencho before, I absolutely love Prunella, who is her protagonist for Sorcerer to the Crown. Gut is another wonderful character. She works her strengths, she knows her worth and her morals, she speaks her mind, she makes sort of characters talk to her, she kind of gets in under their like defences, and her wit and banter are wonderful, and I absolutely love the chemistry she has with Tet Sang and how they kind of rub against each other in terms of like their different ways of the world. Tet Sang is very much a realist to Fung Chun's ideology, and I really liked that kind of dynamic as well. And there's also like general kind of enjoyment of sort of the dynamic of the other bandits kind of mixed up within all of that too. There's a great mission, and the pasts of characters kind of come into play as well, and it was really fun ride, and I absolutely would be reading anything that Zencho puts out. There we go, non-spoilers done. Okay, let's go on to the non-spoilers for this one. So House of Earth and Blood. So if you watched my initial thoughts on this book, you will know that I really struggled with the writing and a lot of stuff. There was a glimmer of hope. I found myself intrigued with a plot point that happens that starts setting the scene and taking the characters down a path. We have like a crime scene, we have a murder, we have potential for political mess, and that was great. And then we did a fast forward and kind of the characters like in a couple of years time moving on from that, and it just lost that a kind of like gripping rush that you kind of had. I was like, things are happening, and we just kind of went back to la la la, day to day, blah, do I care, are we going to get anything, excessive amounts of background stuff, but is it relevant, that kind of concern. So obviously coming into this, I am taking my baggage from her other books. Just like I was taking my hype from the other one and hoping it lived up to it, I'm taking my baggage from the other, from Aaaaaaall, and going, I don't quite trust that you're going to give me what I want from this, because I feel you have a tendency to just info dump tragic character stories and just info dump random stuff about the world. It's kind of sometimes like she's made world building points and she's like, that's great for her creating this world and to make it feel more detailed, but she feels the need that we need to know everything, whereas actually we don't need everything spelled out. So that is one of the things that I struggle with Mass's writing. However, we did start to get the plot picking up. I also have to absolutely give kudos to the audio narrator. So to begin with, I wasn't sure how I felt about the audio narrator. It took me a while to kind of get into the voice. But the more I kind of listened, the more I felt kind of at home with the voices that she used. And the more I listened, the more I was so impressed by Elizabeth Evans' ability to do character voices and clear character voices for a huge cast of characters within this book. Like, she would start talking and I would know which character it was that was talking. And that is difficult because there is a little bit of a genericness of characters within Mass's books. I mean, they're all beautiful, they're all gorgeous. You know, you will hear the gorgeous female or the stunning male repeatedly in these books. And it's like, when everyone is gorgeous and beautiful, the fact they are gorgeous and beautiful kind of starts to become invalid because everyone is. So it's like, it doesn't make that much of a difference. So it's like, you might as well just say the male and we will already know that they're gorgeous and beautiful. Anyway, nitpicking aside. So she did, I think Elizabeth Evans did a wonderful job with sort of bringing these characters to life. And listening as an audiobook, I was able to speed it up. So it was much easier to kind of get the plot and gloss over the extra background information that was a little bit surplus. So we then start getting, we go back to this crime that is then going to be reinvestigated. And that's when it starts to get interesting. And that's when you start to have a character connection, which was fun. We start to get intrigue. We start to get motion through the book. It picks up the pace. I am interested. Now, no one was more surprised than myself when I finished the book. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed this book. I am shocked, considering how much I was, I don't think this is going to work, when I read like the first fifth of the book. It's so weighty. Look at this. It's massive. I still feel it did not quite need to be as long as it was. And there are still like points that I would want to reorganize. But comparing this to Aaaaaaall, this absolutely kicks Aaaaall's butt. In my opinion is valid. Your opinion is valid if you have a different one. We're all different humans. It's all good. So in my opinion, this book wipes the floor with Aaaaaaall. And I will explain why. First of all, this has a plot. This book has a plot that is interesting and a full plot. Another thing is, once Mass started the story and got into it and things were going, she stopped needing to explain everything to us quite so much, and she let the story speak for itself. Hooray! This is marvellous. Also, once the characters are settled down and she felt happy that we'd got the background and we didn't need any characters to be explained, we didn't need to know any more about that life is hard for Bryce, life is hard, you know, these characters have had difficulties, this character struggles with their dad, this character feels worthless, this character doesn't think this. Once she felt that she'd repeated that enough times for us to have a good grasp of this, she stopped telling us. And the story was allowed to breathe, the story was allowed to just happen without any pauses and stop-starts in it. So because of that, I actually started to enjoy the characters when they were just allowed to be and they were chatting with each other, which wasn't interrupted. And what was also great was we started to get little snippets of their past life, not a massive vomit of information, slid in at different points. And so it was like you were peeling back the layers of the characters and learning more and more and more about them. And I liked that. I appreciated that way of the story being told to me. And by the end of the book, what I did really appreciate is that there were certain things that you were shown or introduced to at the beginning that then came to have an importance and a significance at the end. Now, when I started reading it, I was a little bit critical about quite a lot of things because my experience of Mass in the past was that this isn't relevant. But she actually made everything relevant to the story. I mean, there's still a lot of stuff that I think we could have, you know, you don't need to tell me that many times that, you know, about the eye colours or, you know, about they hate their dad. You know, I get it. You don't need to keep going on about it. But certain things, we then got payoff as to what that was. And if there's something I like in my books, I like setup and I like payoff. That makes me very happy. So that was great. There was a lot of action. There was a lot of moments in here where I felt sad for characters and excited for characters, and it got an emotional reaction from me, and that was great. I also thought the world building was a lot more interesting. There was a lot more kind of like dark and shade and kind of political factions rather than just things being pretty, which is kind of what I got more from Aaaaaaall. Pretty, or we're told they're terrifying, but we don't have any kind of like terrifying stuff to happen. In here, we did have more terrifying stuff. So like we got the receipts of this character is evil, your life is in danger. We had receipts for those, which I appreciated. So I actually believed that there was a danger. So I enjoyed that. There were secondary characters that I really liked in here. So I had a good time eventually with House of Earth and Blood. I am surprised. I'm very surprised. I feel very satisfied having read this. I feel very pleased that I've read this and had a good time with it. It was a fun ride. It was a fun ride, and because I enjoyed myself, I thought, well, maybe I will try the second book. Maybe I will try the second book. I really like I said, I like Elizabeth Evans' audio. If the library has it, I put a request in for Sky and Breath, and I listened to it in July because it came in a lot sooner than I thought it was going to. And so there we go. So not July, I listened to it in June. See, already don't know what I'm talking about. I listened to it in June, and you will hear my thoughts on Sky and Breath in June. So there we go, non-spoilery. I enjoyed the books. Very exciting. I will do a clearer wrap up of the end about where I stand on these authors. Well, you've got a little bit of a hint of where it can go, but I'm now going to go into spoilers for both of the books. So if you are wanting to read either one of these and you don't want them to be spoilt, you know, make use of those timestamps and skip ahead. Right, reassemble my thoughts. No longer need that one. I need this one. Lovely. So let's get into the Order of the Pure Moon reflected in water. And first of all, let's just fully appreciate this cover. How beautiful is this? How cute is this book? It's so thin. It's so sweet. I love it. I love that I've got a little hardback copy of this book. Generally makes me happy holding it and feeling it in my hands and just being able to read it. Also, the edges, they're kind of like, now I've been told this is deckled edges, but I don't know if deckled edges is just that they're supposed to be like at different things, but there's also like the pages are like quite, some of them are just cut straight, some of them are, it's like they've been ripped. See if I can get, I don't know if you can see, but it's all like bumpy along there. It's like it's been ripped, but it's quite cute. I don't mind. Anyway, random asides. Oh, and I left my bookmarking because I thought it was pretty. So this was a card from one of my friends, and I just really liked it. So I turned it into a bookmark. I got a load of gold ribbon and put a hole punch in it, and I just thought it was very pretty. It says, "There's a new star shining in the night sky." It just felt apt that this was Order of the Pure Moon and I had a star. Okay, enough rambling. So, spoilers now. Gut Im and Tet Sang. I mentioned before, I like their chemistry, I like the banter, I like the witticism. I had so much fun wanting this ship to come in between the two of them. I just found them really cute. I just really enjoyed their relationship, and I just thought they were such a fun pairing to have together. So I like the way that they're together and they're learning about like Tet Sang's past, and just that doesn't kind of affect the relationship between them, and they kind of continue to have this, you can see there's an affection there, and there's a lot of banter in there, but beneath that you can definitely feel this fondness between them, and I loved that so much. And I found it very satisfying when they did eventually get together. So I love that little ship. Zen Cho's ships are always very subtle. But you just really, I just find myself just absolutely rooting for these characters to be together, and just little tiny things. I just really love it. So I really enjoyed the surprise of Tet Sang's past. So there's sort of like some more climactic moments in here to do with the bounty that they are trying to cash in on, and Gut Im, whilst caring for Tet Sang's injury, Tet Sang realizes that Gut Im knows that his body was assigned female at birth, and Gut Im also says that she knew that before because of certain tells that she thought no one else who'd had an experience that way would have known about that. And it turns out that Tet Sang is also an ex-nun from the Order of the Pure Moon reflected in water, and was in a different way to Gut Im. So they both had different talents within that order, and it was really fascinating to hear about Tet Sang's history. So Tet Sang is a trans man. It doesn't sort of explicitly say it in the book, but because Zencho continues to use he, him pronouns for Tet Sang, after the sort of like revelations about his past, for me that says he's definitely trans. Whether his character ends up kind of identifying as non-binary or as a man, because of the he, him pronouns, I would veer more on the side that Tet Sang is a trans man. So that was a wonderful reveal in here, that he had this past of actually being a nun and was responsible for this treasure and this loot from the monastery that Gut Im was horrified about, but then realised they were actually trying to protect. So then kind of this difficulty of like how they then go about doing this, and her plan, Tet Sang with his other knowledge just comes in at one point and just sort of like is able to take over a bit, which was quite funny to see Gut Im so like at loss for words a little bit. But also I enjoyed Gut Im then kind of turning the tables on Tet Sang later on in the book and revealing the extent of her powers, and the proof that, like, you know, yes, she's a nun, she is a female, and she is still choosing not to just be put somewhere safe. Like, she has agency, she has lived a life in seclusion, but no thank you very much, she has now found freedom and she knows what she wants, and she feels the goddess is pushing her in a certain way to do a certain thing. And I loved how it ended with Tet Sang choosing to go off with Gut Im, and they were just going to go and travel together as outlaws, and I thought that was joyous. I really enjoyed kind of the reveal of the religious artifacts. I very much felt that Gut Im was not just gonna leave those lying around and there was going to be some sort of trick up her sleeve, so I was very pleased to be proved right on that point. I enjoyed the kind of the political danger and the kind of the background of this world that's sort of going on, that they could be on the run, that these kind of preserving of these religious artifacts is like quite treasonous. So I enjoyed that element of danger in there. And this book, I absolutely loved it. It was just a delight from start to finish, and it was just wonderful. I highly recommend, and I cannot wait to read Blackwater Sister, which is my final Zencho book that I have to read. It's okay, it's gonna be fine. But yes, that is Order of the Pure Moon done. Okay, let's move on to this chunker and see everything that I've got to say about this one. Oh dear me. Right. Okay, yeah, so where am I starting? I've kind of written that all fit. Yeah, let's start there and I'll go back to that one. Sorry, my notes are just not making sense for me. Right, so as I mentioned, it took me, once the plot started going, that's when I started enjoying it. Before we get to the point, I just want to explain what one of my problems is with Mass's writing, and why the difference in kind of the pace picking up, why the picking up of the pace made such a difference for me in my enjoyment of the book and the plot going forward, and why I just find her detail and repetition irritating and jarring to the story, and kind of a barrier to me being able to enjoy the story she wants to tell. So this is chapter 14. Oh, this is spoilers, by the way. I felt that you should be aware by now I'm talking about this book, but just in case you're not, I'm now going to do spoilers for House of Earth and Blood, so if you don't want them, bye. Cool. So the character Rune Dannon, he is Bryce's half brother. Bryce has a human mum and a fae dad, hates a fae dad, raised by her human mum and her human stepdad. Rune Dannon was raised by his dad, got a fae mum somewhere, don't really see her, but she's female and considered like a second-class citizen in the Autumn King's eyes. So Rune Dannon is Prince of the Autumn King, and Bryce is just said to be his cousin rather than his half-sister. So this is Rune going to confront his father about, oh, I can't remember what, about that Bryce is got to go and investigate this dead vampire that was a client of hers that died the same way as her best friend Danica. So I'm going to read you the dialogue, okay? Just the dialogue. Enter. Should I be wearing a hazmat suit? State your business, Prince. Some major shit is going down. That was the first 2 pages. I just got a visit from Isaiah Tiberium. Maximus Tentrum was murdered last night in exactly the same way that Danica and her pack were killed. I received the report early this morning. It appears Philip Briggs wasn't the murderer. You were going to tell me when? Am I beholden to you, Prince? A few paragraphs. This information is vital. I already put a call out to Flynn and Declan to amp up patrols in Fyro. We'll have every street watched. Then it does not appear I need to tell you, does it? So we've got a back and forth going on, sort of. For me, that's kind of like he's boiling for a fight with his dad. Snippy dialogue, pacing. We then have 6 paragraphs in between that. Then it does not appear I need to tell you, does it? 6 paragraphs until we get the next piece of dialogue. Did the commander of the 33rd think anything of note? And then we have another 4 paragraphs before we have... No. So in between, we have got a load of extra information about how Rune feels about his dad. The background of the characters of Rune and his childhood with Bryce and how they both feel about their dad, which kind of takes away from this confrontation that they're having. And I find it really irritating. And I was like, this could have been a really strong scene between a father and a son that don't get on and a son being pissed at his dad. But it's broken up so much that you just lose all of that flow, all of that pacing. And it just instead becomes basically like, first, there we go, I'm going to show you the chapter. Here we go, look. We've got, oh no, not that bit. Talk amongst yourselves, it's all fine. Here, we've got 13 pages of basically posturing between two male fae that are either pretending to be like a looming fae threat and like, you can't mess with me, you don't mess with me, and slash like evil dad vibes. And all we kind of get from the plot within those 13 pages in terms of the plot progression is tell your sister she needs to shut up and sit down and find the horn. Like that's what we're given from that. I mean, I'm sure it feels like we're given more information about Bryce and Rune's relationship and Rune's like relationship with his dad and Bryce's relationship with his dad and how it made them feel about each other. I don't feel that that's nothing we wouldn't have already got like later on in the story. like from moments where Bryce meets her dad, or like other things that come up, like we could have still got that. I already get that Rune doesn't like his dad. I get that Bryce does not like the way the Autumn King treats Rune, and she doesn't like him either. I get that. So it just felt surplus information, and it just broke up what could have been like a dramatic confrontation scene and like a plot pushing forward scene. That is one of the things that annoys me. However, it was about when we get to chapter 17, which is coming. It's coming. Do-do-do-do-do. Cause I can't pause, I could pause, but I've already started flicking. We're almost there. I don't know why. There we go. So like here. So this is just, I wanted to give you a visual, that's why. So I read this much of the book to get to this bit, and that is when it kind of started for me, that I felt like I was going to start enjoying the book. So I had to get through all of this before I actually started enjoying it. So the reason I started enjoying it, so we had, like I mentioned, like we had this kind of crime setup. We've got Hunt and Bryce who are going to have this kind of like enemies to lovers kind of feeling, like grumpy sunshine vibes. Now, I did actually end up enjoying their relationship because you did kind of find out more about them, and you did have a lot of kind of interaction between them, and them kind of learning not to be prejudiced about each other, which I did enjoy. It was done slowly, so I could get on board with it. So that is where I go back to my old notes. Yeah, so I enjoyed the kind of slow burn, annoying co-workers that they were kind of like forced into this situation together, to work together, and then kind of starting to respect each other, starting to become friends, and then kind of turning into lovers. I enjoyed that slow burn progression as the book went on. I liked that. And so I started enjoying it from when Bryce kind of drops her ditzy facade. I enjoyed that she did that. I enjoyed that there was more of a purpose to what she was doing than what like people have been led to believe. And I enjoyed that as a reader, you kind of were slightly duped by that as well. Because like there were certain things that weren't revealed straight away. So I did enjoy that aspect of it. Like you're slowly like, it was slowly like, okay, I kind of see what you're doing here, Bryce. I appreciate that. And like, so slowly you were kind of getting, seeing more of her character as well. So I liked that. So I enjoyed Bryce dropping her facade, and them starting to really kind of begin this crime solving pair mystery working out stuff. Like they started their investigation. That is the word I wanted. I enjoyed that they started their investigation. I enjoyed the kind of grumpy sunshine vibe, and the sort of like blind faith, let's just go for it, to the you're walking into a dangerous situation kind of feeling. I liked that they annoyed each other, but in kind of a fun way. Like it wasn't malicious, it was just sort of fun, and I enjoyed watching kind of the respect and friendship sort of building up between them. I liked the mystery of the body counts and the search for the demon, and kind of where that all took them, and then finding out that it was not the demons, that the demons were kind of like an after effect of the use of this kind of superpower enhancing drug that was going on. So I kind of enjoyed all of that kind of like underworld, not just like literal underworld, but like underworld in kind of like the crime speak underworld. I enjoyed all of that. I enjoyed kind of finding out more about all these different quarters and areas and different races and kind of the political setup. I really enjoyed all of that. I enjoyed finding out new characters. I enjoyed Rune, and I enjoyed Hypaxia the Medwitch. And that reveal, that was really fun. I liked how she kind of came on board from like the medical side of things. That was really good. And then started to come on board later in kind of more of a political side of thing. That was a lot of fun. And I think the reveals of the personalities and kind of past life of Bryce and Hunt, the fact that they came in slowly and at points where it made sense, like you as the reader were kind of following the journey of Hunt discovering things about Bryce and Bryce discovering things about Hunt at the same time as them. So it kind of felt organic rather than, I've just met you, here is my past life and it's also tragic. It was much, much better. And I felt quite emotional about some of it as well. Like seeing, I got my answer as to why Ethan was pissed at Bryce. So, and it felt very, it definitely gave you this kind of modern edge to this like urban fantasy, that text messages to Danica were released. So it did all make sense. I felt very much like I had all the receipts for why Bryce acted the way she did, why people were annoyed with her, kind of what happened and all of that. I very much felt like that was done well. It wasn't overly hit on the head with it all, like the dots all added up to make the picture. I appreciated it. So I do feel that there was a little bit of the overuse of the word alcohol. It felt a little bit like SJ Math was like, love this, I'm going to use it a lot. I appreciated what she was trying to say with it. So alcohol, like asshole who is an alpha male. Like I appreciated that. And I do think kind of a lot in this sort of fantasy romance and romance genre, you then do tend to have a lot of like alpha males as like the hero. And it kind of leading to not the best example of healthy relationships. So I can understand like that whole distrust of alpha holes. Also you then kind of, as the story goes on, you find out more about Bryce's mum and her relationship with Bryce's biological father, the Autumn King, but her actual father is a human, and he helped her and her mum escape, and then taught, he was like a sharpshooter and taught Bryce to shoot. So there's like, it all makes sense, like the background, her background was logical and believable. So I liked it. And I liked the fact that because her mum had a terrible sort of relationship with an alpha hole, so a powerful supernatural being that was like in charge, I can understand why Bryce was reluctant to have that kind of relationship, which is why Danica's beta wolf in her pack, Connor, Bryce kind of held off a lot because she wasn't sure. Like, although yes, she was attracted to him, yes, she had feelings for him, she still wasn't sure because of her mum's past and kind of what that might mean for her. So all of that made sense. So her freaking out when she agreed to go out with him and then going and getting off her face on drugs and alcohol and partying and having her last bit of like no strings attached sex made sense. But her text messages got leaked, and then that is why Ethan hated her, because his brother was dying and she was having sex with someone else out at a club. So I can understand why he felt that kind of betrayal. But if you're friends, don't you talk to each other? Don't you talk to each other and have that kind of communication? But we'll go with everyone was in a really bad place, trauma, grieving, all of that jazz. They didn't. That's what happened. So seeing that Bryce was then ostracized by like the entire wolf pack, by a lot of kind of like the community, and she just kind of shut herself down and kind of became what everyone thought she was on the outside and just not revealing her true self on the inside. So I could understand that and her wallowing, and it was really sad to hear about how she kind of lost touch with her friends. And I like that that is addressed in the book later on, and so those kind of emotions are dealt with, and it was a really fun way. I do find her friends like really interesting characters as well, and you do start to see them more towards the end, so I appreciated all of that. Where was I going? Yeah, and the grieving and sort of like past trauma and losing loved ones and sort of losing your purpose in life, or not quite knowing your purpose. I thought all of that was kind of done a lot subtler than it was done in Aaaaaaall. There possibly were a few too many comments about that Bryce didn't dance again once she lost Danica, and Bryce didn't drink again once she lost Danica. Probably a few too many. It's like, have that point noted, don't need to keep going on about it. But generally, I thought it was well done. The thing that did annoy me was that I can appreciate for a plot point and an aha moment and like wanting to play with the reader's emotions that it was given out as though Danica was the reason all her pack died and she killed herself because she took this drug, and that she took it to relax and she knew people because she had drugs with them, and that she took the horn for a laugh because she didn't live by the rules and she was crazy. I can see why they were trying to twist it in terms of the reader, but I didn't. Everyone else could buy that. But I think for your protagonist, Bryce, the best friend of this person, that the absolute like soulmate best friend, for her to suddenly, although there was initial like denial, it wasn't a maintained denial. And I feel like she knew her friend, she knew her friend's values and morals. And though, yes, she was a wild party girl, because Bryce is also a wild party girl, but it's not just that. That's just them letting loose, they're letting off steam. They had other things going on behind that as well. She knew how Danica took her responsibilities of being a pack leader. She knew that she didn't like how the pack is currently being run, has issues with her mum about certain things, and that she wanted to change stuff, and that she stood up for small people. And we have this whole background of Bryce and Danica going off to like save, like deal with this kind of underworld, like animal smuggling or something like that. So you knew that there was more to it than this. And so I did not believe it. I felt annoyed that Bryce accepted what she was being told. I felt like she would still be fighting for her friend's truth and fighting for her friend's, like, there would be more of a reason for her not to tell Bryce. There'd be more to it than that. So I wanted her to, I didn't want her to have given up on Danica and have believed that about her. I felt annoyed about that. I didn't feel that that was realistic for the friendship that we are being told that they have. I really enjoyed Lahaba, the fire sprite. I grew very fond of her, and just the noble sacrifice really got me. Poor Lahaba, justice for Lahaba. And I also appreciated kind of like that unfairness of everyone who was on like the wrong side of the war and the rebellion. You know, they've got like thousands-year-old slaves and children of slaves because their ancestors were on the wrong side of this rebellion. And there's kind of like this second-class citizen feeling, and just like humans aren't treated properly. This just, it feels like the political status quo leaves a lot to be desired, and this world leaves a lot to be desired in its terms of its kind of like corrupt government. So I enjoyed that feeling and that kind of becoming more apparent as the book went on. So I appreciated that political situation. So things that there was an emotional moment that I also enjoyed, which was when Bryce suddenly felt totally betrayed by Hunt because he was part of the people doing this drugs deal with this dangerous drug that they just found out and spoken about. So I very much appreciated that sudden shock and that betrayal, and really, really felt for her at that point. And yeah, Hunt made some very bad choices and did not deal with that very well at all. However, what did then feel very out of character and just didn't make sense to me was, why did then Bryce decide to sacrifice her life to try and save Hunt from going back to be a slave of this person that abused him as his punishment? Like, I don't understand why that was a sensible option for her. She has this whole conversation with Fury. I love the chat with Fury. I thought that was great that her friend did have her back. Her friend was absolutely rubbish with dealing with feelings and emotions. And I think that the conversation still hasn't quite finished, but I appreciated it starting. And Fury says, don't do anything stupid. And Bryce is like, they didn't say don't do anything sensible. This isn't sensible, Bryce. What were you thinking? Like, one, getting into massive debt to buy him. Okay, sure, fine, legal, I get it. But then offering yourself as a slave in his place, one, she's not going to go for that because she's gonna be much more interested in making him cringe, and kind of threatening to hurt you. But like, why would you do that? If you truly believe this person has betrayed you, then it just makes no sense. And also, like, surely you're still supposed to be in your head fighting to clear Danica's name and find her killers. And how are you going to do that if you're enslaved to a crazy angel and you're probably going to die because you're a human, not an immortal? So no, it was an absolutely stupid plan. And I was so convinced, I had so much faith in Bryce at this point, that when she said that, I was like, she's got a trick up her sleeve. She's got the serum on her somewhere, and she's going to suddenly like go full on powerhouse, taking her down. And oh no, oh my God, she's actually serious. She's actually serious. She's actually serious. No. And I just I couldn't get involved, couldn't connect to it. Absolutely could not get on board with her being annoyed with her brother for stopping this going down. And I'm just like, why wouldn't he? Why would he not stop you? He'd be a crap brother. He'd be like, do you know what? I appreciate your agency. Absolutely, go sell yourself into slavery and die so you can save this other angel that betrayed you. Do that. No, he's never going to do that. Totally did not agree with Bryce on any of those points there. And, you know, thank goodness she pulled herself back up, because I was just like, no, I'm out. What are you doing? But luckily the whole killing Michael in front of the whole, Micah in front of the whole of the, you know, Crescent City world, that was beautiful. I mean, gutted for La Harbour, but I really appreciated that there was just enough mention of the like God-killing bullet behind Jessica's desk. It worked in that it was a subtle hint to her power and her collection, and that you don't mess with Jessica, and it wasn't hit on the head too much, so that when Bryce was going to the office and went and got the gun, you were like, yes, brilliant. So that was really well done. That's when it worked. More of that, please, Mass. Thank you. I enjoyed the fight against Hell. I really was pleased that it was Micah who had like set up all of this little shenanigans to start off with, for all of his reasons. The horn tattoo was very clever. I enjoyed like the following of that. And I liked the reveal of Bryce's Fae powers. I thought it was all just done like piece by piece. I was like, I like piece by piece. I like slow reveals. I liked, again, I always liked the political situation, that the second class citizens, they weren't considered being worth protecting, like as long as the rich people were all fine. I appreciated them all going out and fighting for the unprotected people. And when you had that moment with the gates, so again, the gates, we heard about them in the beginning, they've been mentioned sort of throughout the story, not too much, I think. So when the gates were used as a way of Danica connecting with Bryce, and you're just hearing Danica's voice coming from the underworld gates shouting, light it up, I was like, yay! So again, I had an emotional connection. I really appreciated that, to the point that I was totally fine with Mass talking about Danica's corn blonde hair with tints of amethyst and rose, and I can't remember what she used for blue, sapphire probably, in her hair. I was like, do you know what? You describe her hair like that. That's fine. I feel right now, I feel you've earned that description. Excellent. I can go with that. Loved the drop being saved for that moment to do all of that. It was very satisfying. And I enjoyed that there's a lingering threat. And that there's more mystery and intrigue with some grey characters at the end. So Jessica and Adius, the devil guy, really liked their conversation. That sounds lots of fun. So because of that, that made me go, let's just see. Let's just see. I hear bad things about Sky and Breath, but you know what? Let's just see. I will tell you my thoughts on Sky and Breath in my June wrap-up. But I want to do a big finish. Before I finish talking about this, I want to read one of the acknowledgements that I think we should all appreciate. So given my difficulties with Mass's previous books and what I've explained to you here about why I much preferred this one and why I felt it wiped the floor with Aaaaaaall, in Mass's acknowledgements, Noah Wheeler, editor extraordinaire. Noah, how can I ever begin to thank you? Appreciate you, Noah. You transformed this book into something I'm proud of, challenged me to be a better writer, and worked your ass off at every single stage. You are brilliant, joy to work with, honoured to call you my editor. So I also say as a reader, Noah Wheeler, thank you so much. I can see the improvements. I feel you've done a great job. Mass, well done for changing your writing and trying and making it work better. You should be proud of this because it is a big improvement from Aaaaaaall. The way the plot was constructed, the way the story came together, the weaving of the story, the making us feel things about the characters worked so much better with the interspersing of information and just letting the characters be much better. I would be fascinated to have seen a first draft of this and see what exactly Noah Wheeler worked on. I would find that really interesting. Noah Wheeler, if you're watching, love to hear all about your editing process of House of Earth and Blood. And I need to get hold of a copy of House of Sky and Breath so I can see if there was an acknowledgement to an editor in that book. And on that note, we're going to do the ending. So, would I read any more by these authors? Was the second chance correct? So, Zen Cho, absolutely. She is now an absolute auto by author for me. I really want to read something else by her. I have Blackwater Sister. I can see it on my shelf. I'm anticipating it, but I'm scared because that is my last Zen Cho, and then there won't be any more Zen Cho for me to read that is fresh. So it feels like a treat. I really want Zen Cho to write more. I really hope she has more coming in the pipeline. Sarah J. Maas. Would I read more by her? Well, as part of my Chatties Challenge, there will be videos. Once I've done Journey-a-thon, once I've done this, I will start doing Chatties Challenge videos because I keep talking about it and not really making any videos on it. I do have A Court of Silver Flames and the one before that, whatever that is, to read for that. So I will be doing those. And if you like a rant review, I feel there'll be rant reviews coming. So yes. But in terms of will I read her again, I have got the audio of House of Sky and Breath. So it turns out I will be reading again. And I will let you know all my thoughts in June. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that. Were you surprised that I actually ended up liking House of Earth and Blood? Because I was. I was shocked that I ended up really enjoying the book and having a good time with it. Blew my mind. I am so thrilled that I loved Order of the Pure Moon. I felt I was going to, and I felt very 100% pretty much sure when I did my initial reading. And yeah, she is a genius. Love Zen Cho so much. So do let me know, have you got any second chance authors you would consider giving another go? Have you got any authors you're really looking from reading from again to confirm them as one of your favourite authors? Let me know. You know I love a chat. Happy reading, everyone.